Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
All right, now I share. My name is Eric and I'm an alcoholic. Hi, and I really would like to thank Jeff for asking me to share tonight. And I'd like to say that before I start my sobriety date's July 18th, 2004. I got sober when I was 23. I'm a Taurus, so I'm really stubborn. And but I've learned in sobriety to channel that stubbornness effectively and stay sober thus far. I really want to wish Mike also a happy birthday as well, and I think he just said it perfectly when he talked about having relationships in the program. And that was, when I was reading the big book for the first time, and it's something that always sticks out to me, is when it says the primary problem for the alcoholic is their inability to have relationships. And it doesn't say like problems with relationships, or maybe if we do it this way or that way we could have relationships. It says the inability, and the inability means like I can't. Like the way I am wired is I do not know how to do it. And that has just been my pattern my entire existence on this earth before I got, until my second year of sobriety. My way of functioning in life was basically nothing was your business. Stay out of it. Basically, like I would move across the country and call you once I got there and just say, hey, can you pick up my stuff? I moved. I joined the Army when I was 3 months sober, and I called my family from the Army and I said, can you pick up my stuff for my sober living? I moved, And, I transferred colleges with my boyfriend of 2 years back here, and I said, hey, you want to stay with me? You got to move. He didn't move. So, that's kind of like how I communicated, and I just didn't know how to express my needs and wants because I didn't have any. I had a lot of wants, but no needs whatsoever. I don't come from an alcoholic home. My family, my parents don't drink, they don't use drugs, they don't understand it, they don't like the effect produced by it, they think it makes them slow and sleepy and all that stuff, and I'm like, well, that's the point, and I know that for me, when I got here, I don't know, like when people say, oh, I hit a bottom or this or that, and I was emotionally, spiritually, and physically bankrupt. I was emotionally, physically, and spiritually bankrupt from like the time I was 6 years old, and it took me another, 20 years or whatever to get here, 17 years. And the thing for me is that I don't know when the turning point hit. I don't know when the drink took over for me. I don't know when the drugs took over for me. All I know is that it just became a daily living and it became a survival tool for me. And I just know that I never had this feeling when I was a kid like, oh, I have this hole inside of me. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I just didn't want to be here. I would walk off on the playground and just let the wind blow me, away. Like, where am I going to go today? Like, that's just kind of how I functioned. I've been forging checks since I was 6 years old. I've been totally fascinated with all of your stuff. Whatever you ordered at the dinner table, I wanted. I know for me, when I got sober, basically how it looked like was this. I was selling my ass off 4th and Washington for drugs, and my address was a P.O. box, and that was completely okay with me, all right? I didn't see a problem with that. I was just trying to survive, and I didn't think I was worth anything more than that. I had fantasies like I was going to go to law school someday, and that next $100 I earned, I was going to go sign up for the LSAT. Now, I don't think that's happening when I'm prostituting myself at 6th and Spring, for drugs, not even money anymore, and I'm not taking any LSAT score, okay? It would take me a night to read a paragraph out of a book at the end. I know that I didn't even know what the truth was. All I knew is whatever you told me the truth was. It was like, how are you feeling today? Well, how do you think I'm feeling today? Why don't you tell me how I'm feeling today? I don't know how I'm feeling today. And, that was a really big question for me when I got sober. When I got a sponsor and she said, how are you? It's like, how am I? Like, how do you think I am? Why don't you tell me how I am? That's such a personal question. How dare you ask me how I am? That's none of your business how I am, I'm sober. okay? I'm sitting in this rehab because I have nowhere else to go. You know, I interviewed there, okay? I checked it out, you know, because I had so many better things to do. You know, I went in there, you know, they looked at me for 1 second and they told me I was dying. You know, and I've been trying to kill myself since I was 7 years old with overdosing on, at first, Tylenol. And then as I got older, I, you know, would try like slitting my wrist, but like it's too painful. So then like as I got older, it was like prescription medication. And then I would just drink and drive and just hope I hit a wall. And like I'm the type of alcoholic that would be driving on the freeway and like I would think I would get a flat tire and I would like hit a cone or something, and I would like get out in the middle of the freeway on the 101 and like try and get the cone out from under my tire, just hoping someone would just like hit me, you know? That was like my fantasy. Like I would drive down the street drunk and just hope that someone just like come out from the corner and smack my car and then I could just like die, you know? I did not want to be alive. And and that was a really big struggle for me when I was newly sober. That was like my first hurdle because that was my plan B. You know, like all I knew was that I really needed some food because I was really skinny, and I really needed a shower because I hadn't showered in like over a month. And so this rehab was going to give me a meal, they were going to let me shower, and there was like a place for me to sleep. And that was the initial attraction to sobriety for me. I wasn't planning on staying here. My big idea when I got sober was to get sober for at least 30 days because by then I could emotionally manipulate my family into getting me an apartment in Bel Air, and they were going to buy me a new car because my car had been banged up, and then I was going to go back to graduate school. That was like my fantasy, and that didn't happen. You know, I basically, my idea of how this was going to happen was I was going to sit them down in family group and I was going to blame everything that went wrong in my life on them. And basically how it worked was this. You know, when I did my 4th step, you know, I realized what my part was in situations which I just didn't like because I was perfect. And the thing is that I blamed everything on everyone my whole entire life. You know, it was my father's fault. My inability to have relationships with men was my father's fault because he had left and abandoned the family and moved to have a career in Colorado. So I couldn't have relationships with men at any close distance because I wasn't used to them being close, and I was used to loving people from afar. So therefore, I could not have a healthy male relationship in my life. And I couldn't have relationships, my personal relationships were screwed up by that because he used to beat the shit out of my brother and I. So I was always physically afraid of people. Like someone would come up from behind me and touch me, and I would immediately shake, and it still kind of happens to this day. I blamed my relationships, my sexual relationship problems on my mother because her boyfriend used to sexually molest me in front of her, and she used to laugh and thought it was cute. So that was another issue. And then I blamed my friendships, my personal relationships on my mother because she was always moving every 2 years. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Mermaids, but you know how like she would break up and then they'd move? That was like my story of my upbringing, where my mom would date someone in a town and then they'd break up and then we'd move. And so I never really fostered relationships, and so I blamed my inability to have relationships on her, and it had nothing to do with her. Yeah, we may have moved a lot. Yeah, my dad may have had some unresolved anger issues when I was, me growing up. But that has nothing to do with like the way that I became an alcoholic or why I drank or anything to that extent. It was just my upbringing. And you know, I love my dad today and I love my mom today, you know, and when I dragged them in that family group and I blurged all that stuff out to them on the table, it was not a pretty picture. And you know, the thing with that is that, you know, I could not see their side of the story on anything. You know, I was not exactly like the nicest child growing up. You know, I was incredibly stubborn, hard-headed, which is probably the same thing, but I would refuse to listen to anything that you ever had to say to me. I would purposely fail exams in school so they would hold me back. I didn't want anyone to know me at all. I would, you know, eat lunch by myself. I would join like Girl Scouts and go sit by myself, like at like events, you know, like I wanted to be there, but I didn't want to be there. I don't know if anyone can relate to that, you know, like, or I just kind of wanted to be around people, but I didn't want to talk to you. And if you try to talk to me, like I would like run away. Like I didn't even get my first boyfriend until I was 18 years old. Like a guy would talk to me and I'd just freak out, but I would fantasize about him for at least 3 years before the whole experience, you know? And I know that for me, in sobriety, I basically, so I joined the Army. Everyone loves this story. So I'm at Friendly House, and you know, my sponsor told me to get a job, and I joined the Army. And the recruiter picked me up from Friendly House, and we went, you know, and that was it. And the thing is that, I had to wait like a couple weeks, for processing, and I, went to 26 and Broadway every day, and I thought that as long as I'm going to a meeting every day and I'm sober, things are good, Even though I was dying inside, and I knew I'd made a mistake by joining, and I knew I was running away from things, but I just couldn't, I had so much pride, and I just couldn't admit it to anybody. And so when the gates opened up at Fort Jackson in South Carolina, I finally realized I joined the Army, and there was no turning back at that point. I had had my last cigarette on the way over there, so I was a little emotional, and basically they told me when I got there that I wasn't dressed appropriately, and to put something else on, something that fit, and I was like, well, I don't have anything, sorry. And so they gave me BDUs, and basically I was in the Army for 2 months, and during my stay at the fabulous resort at Fort Jackson, they trained me how to be a killer, and I'm not a physical person, but when you put me in those BDUs and give me an M16-2A, I can get pretty aggressive. And anyways, I was there, and I really wanted someone just to tell me what to wear every day, tell me where I was eating, tell me when I was sleeping, tell me what to do. All my health insurance was covered, and really I just thought it was me really admirable to go overseas and just die for something, because I wanted to die anyways, so I might as well just die for liberty, joy, or whatever, the American way of life, and bring liberty to others, Go blue. Okay, so anyways, I went to Michigan too. Anyways, so I was there, and basically, I didn't know how cute I was until I joined the Army, and so some girls there found me a little bit attractive and decided that they were going to have their way with me every night I was there. And I can tell you right now that if I didn't have problems with relationships with women before I got to the Army, I definitely had them when I got back. It wasn't until about a couple months ago that I was able to go to a woman's stag with the lights off, okay? So the thing is that when I came back from the Army, I got discharged because I had bad hearing in my left ear. And I went into Friendly House again, and I basically couldn't sleep for the first couple nights I was back. And it was at that point that I realized that my good thinking was never coming back. I really thought when I got sober and my head cleared up from drinking and using all those drugs that maybe I could make good decisions again. And when I was sitting at the basement floor of the Army, bleeding and just really upset and feeling like I couldn't talk to anyone, there was no big book, there was no AA meeting, there was no phone call longer than 3 minutes, and it took 2 minutes to even get someone on the phone, there wasn't anyone. And I felt for the first time that my life was unmanageable, which is the second part of step 1, and I don't really think I could drink or use again. And I was about 6 months sober at that point. And I came back, and I was really willing to do really whatever it took at that point. And, I love when people say, I'm willing, I start sponsoring a girl, I'm willing to do anything, everything, anything you ask me to do, I'll run for the street naked. I'm like, oh there, But like, I was really willing to do whatever it took. I was willing to take any job. I really didn't care what it was. I was willing to go to as many meetings as I was directed to. I was really willing to work at the steps that, I did the steps really quickly when I came back. And, I got the opportunity to take the LSATs again, and I got into law school, and I've been, I'm in my 3rd year right now. But the thing is that, it's not who I am, and I normally don't share about it, because people like to ask me legal advice as if I know something, and I really don't know anything, okay? But the thing is that that was a dream of mine, okay? And, that's what I love about Alcoholics Anonymous is that alcoholics didn't give me a ticket to law school. It's like that saying that people say around here, God won't do for you what you can do for yourself. And I took that test, I studied, and I got in, and I didn't manipulate anybody. I didn't, go into debt doing it. It really was. I find that in sobriety for me, when something's in God's plan or something's supposed to be in my life, it's not difficult. It's not hitting my head against a brick wall. I find that if I start feeling out of control and I'm trying to control and manipulate a situation, then it's really not meant to be. And a sponsee was asking me yesterday actually because she's having a hard time believing in God. And, for me, it's not like, I can't personify a God, okay? If I could conceive a God, it wouldn't be God. If I could put a human face on it, if I could give it human characteristics, it wouldn't be God. So for me, God is love. And because love is something I can't describe, I can't see it, I can't sense it, it's not under a table, like there it is, It's nothing like that. For me, it's really like someone speaking in a meeting and someone sharing, and, and the speaker's like, oh my God, I said that 10 years ago. where'd that come from, you know? Or when I really am in a lot of pain, you know, what would love do in this situation? What would a loving action be to take care of myself, you know? It's just, like, I don't think when I get a new job that that's God doing it for me. I don't believe that when I get a parking space right up to in front of the store, that's God working in my life, you know? But what I do believe is the fact that I'm sober today. Okay, for someone like me that used to like roam the streets of downtown with like no underwear on, you know, my hair smelled, the hair that I had left I hadn't pulled and burned away, you know, my skin was bleeding all over the place. I couldn't stop touching myself and pricking myself away, you know what I mean? I've you know, like had more abortions than I can count, you know, like there's been so much that has happened before and during sobriety that I do not drink. I just want to reaffirm that. I do not drink no matter what. I don't drink because I get homeless. I don't drink if I lose my job. I don't drink if this person likes me or they do like me. You know, that's a big one for alcoholics. Oh my God, the person I like actually likes me, you know, woo, you know. Or, you know, if I get a raise at work or I don't get a raise at work, if there's money in my account, if there's not money in my account, if it's raining, if it's snowing, if the car works, if it doesn't work, if I get a ticket, if I don't, whatever. You know, I don't drink no matter what. And I really, really am grateful to be sober today, so thank you.
Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. Shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. And if that shows up, the gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.